speaker this morning is Mr. Knepper, Mr. Howard Knepper, and he is running for a Senate seat here in the state of Florida. He has worked in the private sector since he was 19 years old. He's a successful businessman and has been a licensed mortgage broker for 30 years. In addition, he is an accomplished real estate developer and investor, and he is the president of Global Condominium and Property Management here in Florida. I would like to invite him to come and tell us a little bit about more about himself and what he stands for as running for one of our state senators. Mr. Knepper.
Hi. First of all, I want to thank you for again inviting me to come here today. I'm glad to be here. And I'm running for the United States Senate. And I want to make two disclaimers first before I get started, because as I get known, if I do, throughout the state. Something happened about 3 years ago. I had an unusual situation occur. My name, www.howardknepper, was hijacked. In other words, some people are out there to take your name, and that's something that the government has to deal with, the federal government. So they took my domain name, and they tied it to some ridiculous X-rated site, and now they bought it for $20, and they want $3,000 for me to get it back. And of course, my attorneys are dealing with that now, and that can happen to anybody, and it's terrible. Well, it is. It's almost extortion, so we're looking into that issue. But we will get that squared away, so I don't have anything to do with any porn sites or anything of that nature. And then there was another video where I had to take a shot at maybe considered the presidency, but that was withdrawn immediately. I am single, not married. Just never found the right gal yet to be connected with, but so that's clarified there. The gal there in that particular video is a good friend of mine for 20 years. Okay, so let me move on here because I know the time is limited, and if there's any questions I'd like to ask. It all started a long time ago where I felt that term limits were important, that senators should not be able to serve for 30 and 40 years. So I felt that that was an important issue of mine to try to, just like the president serves 4 years, a Senate should maybe be limited to 3 terms. That would be 18 years. And that's where I really got motivated into politics, because I felt that that's something that should be pushed. But setting that aside right now, there's other issues that I am passionate about. First of all, let me say this. I cannot and I will not support Donald Trump for this nomination for President of the United States. I can only tell you that I apologize that you as women had to listen to some of his statements. I even feel sorry for the men on the stage with him. I think that it's disgusting that Mr. Trump could not control and understand that, as the President of the United States pointed out, that politically correct and not politically correct, you know, there's 2 different issues there. Mr. Trump has gone way above what I think the mainstream American people believe. I think that he is going to find out that his poll numbers went up in an imaginary way, so to speak. He thinks by being insulting to people that's why he's popular. But I can tell you that I have my pulse from my family that is in Baltimore, the Washington area, most of my family. I'm very strong in Miami. I have a home in Western North Carolina, and there's not one person that's serious, that's intelligent, that would support Mr. Trump. Some of his ideas are good. We understand that we have to have a strong border. In the southern border, we have to have the toughest military in the world. We have to stop people from coming in the United States illegally. We understand all of this. We understand that we're fed up with Washington's gridlock. But insulting, and I'll tell you something that bothers me. It's all started out from the very beginning when he insulted John McCain. When he said that John McCain was only a hero because he got caught. Well, I'll say this. All the people that are in the military right now are heroes, as far as I'm concerned. The minute they leave their families, the minute they go in to protect us and give us our freedom, they are war heroes. Mr. Trump needs to understand that. And when he makes those statements, how would you feel if you were serving in the military? You're away from your families and you have to be worried that your next ex-commander-in-chief thinks that if you get caught, you're not a war hero. They're all war heroes, every single one of them. And every veteran that served in the past, every veteran naturally has to, it's a first priority. I've said that my whole life. I support that completely. It's in my websites. You can look at my videos from 10 years ago, 15 years ago. The veterans are our #1 concern. I have friends that have come back from Iraq, young kids that were 22 and 24. They couldn't, in Miami, they went to a VA hospital. They couldn't even get into the hospital. They were sent to a psychiatric ward. It's just terrible around the country. So that problem has to be fixed. And I would certainly be very vocal in that particular issue, for sure, just like many other issues. Now, Mr. Trump is a problem, and I think that our leadership made a mistake when we said and catered to him by saying that he should have be dealt fairly. Well, where did he treat the other candidates fairly, our other Republican candidates fairly, including Mr. Cruz and Carlin and Jeb and Marco Rubio, who I seek his Senate seat, and Governor Christie? Where was that? So now we're in a problem. We're in a big problem because he may get the nomination. So if he gets the nomination, what do? Well, it's a problem. We want to beat Hillary Clinton. But if he gets the nomination, I'm not so sure. And then I'm in a position running for the United States Senate that I have to support my Republican nominee. But yet, when I grew up, my mother told me, you respect women, you respect the person next to you. I didn't make it in business by insulting people and acting the way Mr. Trump does. So it's tough and it's difficult. And I want you to know before I conclude, and I'll take questions, because I could go on for 3 or 4 hours on every subject. I think that I'm an open-minded person and flexible. And any senator has to be that way. If you're going to run in the Senate, first of all, you have to be open-minded. You have to get along with your House of Representatives and your other senators. If I go into Washington and they don't like me and I need their support on a bill to help Florida and the rest of the country, they're going to slam their doors shut right in my face. So it's a situation where you have to be tough, but you also have to get along with the rest of the House of Representatives and the other senators. Now, Mr. Trump's going to have a big problem, even if he became the president, because he insulted a lot of people, and it doesn't work, and it won't work. So we have a problem on our hands, and I'm open-minded, and I'd like to hear feedback from you. But if I do wind up getting known and get up in the polls, and I'm not saying I will, but if I do, I would probably want to go down, and my wish would be to be one of the most visible and closest senators to you, to all of you. And I would want to have town hall meetings 3 times a year, because I don't know what's going on if I'm not hearing from you. I'm in Washington, but you can get caught up and not know exactly what some of your problems are. And if I don't make it into the Senate, I still want to help you. I'm a big animal activist. I am a supporter for women's rights, for domestic violence my whole life. I also am very much involved in elderly abuse, and I was a guardian ad litem in my early 20s. I support that. I saw that here. There's a big building around the corner, guardian ad litem. The guardian ad litems are very important. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's very, very important that a child has a guardian ad litem, because sometimes the state is on one side, the parents on the other side, and the state can sway one way, and it may not be the right way, and the guardian protects and is the voice of that child. So I'm going to kind of conclude. I could go on and on and on, and I know my time's limited, but if there's any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Go
ahead.
Go first.
Well, you talked a lot about Donald Trump, and the jury's still out on whether or not he's going to be the nominee, but I don't know much about you yet. I don't know how you differ from other candidates. I want to know where you stand on some of the important issues. I want to know how you feel about sanctuary cities here in Florida. I want to know how you feel about the way the budget is handled here in Florida, how money you feel could be directed better. Tell me your thoughts on it.
Well, okay, first of all, in reference to let's talk about education, for instance. There's been a lot of talk about when federal funds come into the state and the federal government wants to direct where that money goes. I don't think it should be. I think that the states should decide where the money goes into education. They're more on the ground. They understand more of what they need to where that money should go. So the federal government really needs to stay out of that and let each state decide where the money goes, because the state is more close to the issues where they need the money to go to, and that's important. The federal government doesn't have to direct where that goes in that particular situation.
Well, I'm along with her in that you do not sound like a serious candidate. Okay, you talked about Trump, and that isn't the issue for this candidacy. It's to be a senator for this state. And just one simple question. Tell me what your approach is if you are a conservative towards Common Core. I mean, you didn't describe any of these issues at all, and I think that's a failure in understanding how the process works.
Okay, well, first of all, let me just tell you, it is disturbing that I have to talk about Donald Trump. But I know I don't have to, and I won't go for any further with him. Remember, if the senators, he has to, I have to interact with the President of the United States, and I have bills that have to be pushed through, and it's difficult. But let's forget about Donald Trump. Okay, I agree with you. Whether he makes or doesn't make it, your senator does Washington to represent you, vote on the Senate floor and push bills through that helps the state of Florida. Okay, in Common Core, I haven't studied that much. I know that a lot of people are on both sides of that. I know that it's important to make sure that our children get the right education level, and so I haven't really have a determination on it completely, but I know that all 50 states have adopted it basically, and they think it's good to have that standard for all of our students to be able to meet the standards of Common Core, but I still am out on that. I still have to hear more about that before I give you a conclusion on my decision on that, on how I would vote on that particular issue.
I'm 79, and I have a problem talking because I have essential tremors.
Okay.
But Trump is not my favorite, but whatever gets the nomination Republican, I will vote for him. Amen.
And I agree that whoever gets the nomination, and if it's Donald Trump, I'll support the Republican nominee. But I wish, and I'm going to hope that he will tone it down, and that if he doesn't tone it down, it's going to hurt the Republican Party, because isn't the objective to have a Republican president? So he has to start listening if he does make it, and he has to listen to all of us and tone it down, because otherwise we're not going to have a Republican president. That's the bottom line. He's got to tone it down slightly. That's my opinion. If he gets in, does anybody else see it any differently? I mean, do you really think that he's going to make it through Hillary Clinton by insulting and attacking? And I don't think it's going to work.
He's going up a lot.
It's up to God.
Voters.
The voters are God. Okay, that's good.